And then finally, Keith.
Thank you very much for affording me the time to speak to the council. I'm a volunteer diver for Reef Check California, and I'm also on the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary Advisory Council. And as a Reef Check diver for the last 10 years, I've had a lot of opportunity to dive this whole state from San Diego all the way up into Mendocino. And for the first 5 years, like in 2009 when I started, it was really great. You know, California diving was great. But then starting in November of 2013, it all kind of took a nosedive for us. And in Monterey, we've seen just the kelp disappear and the urchins just kind of take over the whole place, and making this march from Point Pinos all the way down to into the breakwater in Monterey. And it's been kind of a slow march compared to the North Coast. North Coast is more linear. They just like lost everything, and the abalone fishery was a big impact of $44 million to that local economy. But in Monterey, you know, the tourism in Monterey is worth $2.85 billion with a B. So it's a big impact to that area. And you know, as a dive master on a boat, we used to tell the divers when they go out, we used to give them advice, like if you get stuck in kelp, what to do, like don't spin around like a fork in spaghetti, you know, because it's hard, you know, it's like, or you can climb over it. But now we don't tell them anything because there's no reason. You could just swim right around it. It's just so thin these days. So it's had a devastating impact to the local diving community. And we're under pressure too, because now those North Coast divers aren't going to the North Coast very much. They're coming to Monterey, and we're running out of dive sites in Monterey that are decent to look at. I talked to a lot of divers, and you know, people say if I were to start now, I wouldn't start diving. There are people that drop out of diving because it's just not it's not that interesting anymore. There's not that species that you see. And these areas, I mean, we can say it's anthropogenic, it's from climate change as causes, but you know, we are obliged to, these areas are denuded of species. They're departed, and we need to go in there and remove these urchins and restore the kelp back for a lot of reasons: carbon sequestration, coastal beach erosion. That there's all kinds of reasons to do that. And sea otters are in our area, and they are a threatened species, and they need that habitat. So it's for saving sea otters too. There's so many reasons for us to get in there and do that. But also in Monterey we have marine protected areas that surround the entire peninsula. So it's a challenge for us to get permission to be able to do that. Right now I'm working on an experiment with Reef Check California to, there's 20 rocks that are in this one area. We're going there and we're manipulating the count on these rocks to determine what is the threshold density of when kelp will reestablish in those areas. With the hope that if we can figure out what that is, then we can move forward with it. But I also can say too that I know you have the guidelines, but we have a certain sense of urgency because we're working on it now. It's a project we're working on now. We want to be able to advance that for next year's activities too, and be funded for both of those projects. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Really helpful comment, and sort of a sobering note to end on, but one that that really underscores the urgency of the work that folks in this room do.